Do you know why your animation feels boring and it doesn't get any attention?
It's not your lightning, and even not your model.
It's the motion. In this tutorial I will show you how small changes in your graph editor can completely transform your product animations, and I promise you your animations get the attention it deserves. Because you are not struggling with Blender, you are not struggling with the render settings or with your animation, everything is fine, you are struggling with the motion. So by the end of this tutorial you will have a much better understanding of professional motion.
Before we start, a quick note about the model. The iPhone 16 model I'm using in this tutorial is linked below. I originally downloaded it from Sketchfab, but because some of the materials and textures didn't work properly, I recreated my own clean version. You can download that version directly from the link under this video. So let's start by cleaning up the scene. First, we will delete the default cube, our lovely cube. X to delete. Now we will create our background. Shift A to add, then mesh, and then plane. We will scale the plane by about 5 times. Then we will rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees and then move it on the y-axis slightly to the back. This will be our background. Easy, nothing fancy. This will be totally enough. Now, next we will bring our product into the scene. So let's go to File and then click on Append. Now you should coordinate to the file path which I have provided to you guys, the blend file you have already downloaded. Open the blend file. Let me just find my blend file. And then here it is. So click on, so hit the blend file and then click on collection. And then, so this is going to be the main focus of the entire animation. First, make sure you don't have any keyframes on your empty. So make sure to delete all of them. Now that we have our background and our main object, we need to position our camera. For this case, I will split my screen. On the right screen, I will have my camera view. So hit on the camera. Now let's talk about the camera, because this step is crucial. The goal here is to frame the product perfectly. So for that, I will hit the y-axis, and then I'm gonna click Ctrl, Alt, and 0 on your numpad, which will make your current view to your camera view, as you can see on the right screen. Then we want the phone to be centered in the frame, as I said before. So we will move it back. And also, you need to change your aspect ratio. I'm going to type in 1080 and 1920, which is the aspect ratio for Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and for TikTok. All right, let's move it back. Y-axis back to position it in the center, and then the product should fill the whole scene, the whole frame, just like this. But make sure to let there be a little gap, because later we will animate the phone by rotating it, and we don't want product out of frame like this. We can rotate it, it will always be seen. So this should be enough, otherwise the product feels small. So this should be perfect. Now that we have positioned our camera, the product is in our scene, and the background is ready to go, we will start with the texturing, which is not real texturing because it will only be a color change. So I will split my screen. Let me open the render view so you guys can see what happens. Yeah. So right now the background is white. Make sure your plane is selected and then go to properties and click on material. Hit the new button to create a new material for this plane. Right now there hasn't changed anything because the material is set to white, but as soon as we make it, for example, black, it will appear on your Blender view black. Nothing fancy, not any special texture, only a black background. And I also recommend you guys in your wall settings, if you have an HDRI activated, I would remove it and make your world a dark black. Right now you can't see anything, but as soon as we add our lights, we will get our cinematic lightning, which is the best part of this animation. Let's add our first light, which will be the point light. For this case, we select our plane, then we will hit on our keyboard Shift S, and then we will select cursor to select it, which will position the 3D cursor at the origin point of our plane. So Shift S and then cursor to select it. Now we will add our point light. So we will press Shift A and then navigate to light and then point. Our point light is now at the center of our plane because our 3D cursor is positioned there. So press G and then Y to move it slightly to the front. Now make sure to select it and then navigate to your properties and then to the light data. First we will scale up the radius. Then we will give it a power of 1500. So as you can see, it already creates the smooth gradient which we want. I'm going to move my point light to the center of the frame. Perfect. Then we will change the color, and I want not a dark blue, but something. Yeah, this is perfect. Yeah. This is a great color. Now we will add our two area lights, which will shape the product itself. The first area light will be placed behind the product. So let's first add our area light. Let's press Shift S and then cursor to world origin. Then we will place Shift A, light, and then area. So let's move it slightly to the back and then rotate it on the y-axis by -90 degrees. Then we will place it. Then we will place it on the edge and above the phone. And we will also scale it on the y-axis and on the z-axis. Nice. Let's see if you can already see gives this sharp edge which forms the phone. Always experiment with the placing of your lights because there will be always a better position for your light. Now we will add another area light which will be on the other side of the phone. We could duplicate it by using Shift D, but then they are not linked together. And we want them linked together because that means changes to properties like light, strength, or shader settings will affect both lights at the same time, which will be handy when we animate it later. So let's press Alt D, which creates a duplicate, a linked duplicate. Press Escape and then move it by typing, by hitting G, G and then G on the X-axis. Rotate it on the Y-axis by 180 degrees. And then move it slightly below the phone. This is exactly what we want for balanced product lighting. Once the lights are positioned, take a moment to check the result. It should look like this. So we have a point light at the background, which creates a smooth gradient. And we have our two area lights, which right now only show the silhouette on the edges of our phone. Now, before we start animating, there is one very important step we need to cover, and that is light linking. This is essential, especially in product animation, which is a very powerful, handy, useful tool of Blender. So for example, we don't want lights that are meant for the product to suddenly affect the background. And we also don't want the background light to influence the product. Especially once we start animating and rotating lights, things can get messy very quickly if we don't control this. And light linking allows us to precisely define which objects are affected by which light sources. If you have never heard of this before, it is simply called light linking here in Blender. So let's start first with the point light, which we are currently now using for the background gradient, which you can see on the screen. It creates this blue gradient. So first make sure your point light is selected. Then we will navigate to the properties panel and open the object data and scroll down to shading. Hit on shading, then hit on light linking, and then hit on new, which will create a new tab for the light linking of our point light. Now we can define which object this light should affect. In this case, we want the point light to only affect the background. So first we will change the name. I'm gonna call it background. Oops, background. So make sure your point light is selected, and then just drag and drop your background into your light linking tab. Right now you can't see anything. There isn't any difference. But if we toggle it off, as you can see, it is not affecting the background. It is only affecting everything in the scene, but not the background. So we can decide how the light behaves. We can either tell it to affect only the selected object, in this case the background, or affect everything except that object. So right now it is affecting everything except the background. We can add a cube to demonstrate it. This point light is affecting everything in the scene except the background. If we toggle it on, it will only affect the background. And we will do the same thing with the area lights. So make sure one of them is selected, and then again on your properties panel, object data, light linking, create a new one and drag and drop your background. It's the same case. It should only affect your product and not the background. When you rotate the light, you can see it slightly lights up the background. And when we toggle it off, it will only affect our product. Also for the other area light, we won't create here a new one because we already created the light linking setup. We don't need to rebuild everything from scratch. We can simply use the same preset we used for the other area light. So, light linking for area. Perfect. And also don't forget to save your project file. So just to recap, the point light affects only the background. The area lights, these ones only affect the product. Now that our lighting is fully controlled, we can finally start animating. The first thing we will animate is the light strength. This allows us to introduce subtle changes over time without moving anything yet. At this stage, we are not aiming for perfect motion. We are just setting up the base animation using simple keyframes. Once this is done, we will take these keyframes into the graph editor and completely refine the motion. That's where the animation really starts to feel premium. All right, let's make our first keyframes. We want the animation to start in complete darkness. Nothing should be visible at frame 1. So we will start with our point light. Make sure the point light is selected. Then open your shade editor. And if you can see these nodes, that's because you need to toggle on the use node section. Then make sure that you're on frame 1. Select emission and set the strength from 1 to 0. And then press I to insert a keyframe. At this point, the entire scene is completely dark. We will start with the area light on the left. Make sure the light is selected and then select use nodes. Select emission, select your emission node. Make sure you're on frame 1 and set the strength from 1 to 0. And press again I to insert a keyframe. Now let's move in the timeline around 42 frames. That's roughly 1.5 seconds because we will animate it by a speed of 24 frames per second. Then we will increase the emission strength from 0 to 2. And then insert a keyframe. Now, as you can see, when I'm playing it, and when we move forward in the timeline, the light appears and also the silhouette of the phone appears. And the great thing is we don't need to do the same thing on the other area lights because they are linked together. So to really bring out the silhouette of the phone, we also want the lights to reveal more of the contour over time. And we will do that by scaling the area lights along the z-axis. So make sure the light is selected. And then we will, and also make sure you're on frame 1. Then we will press K to insert a keyframe, and we will only change the scale. So only set the keyframe for the scale. There, you can also see it on the object data properties. We inserted a keyframe, and the same thing we will do for the other area light. So press K on your keyboard and then scale to insert a keyframe for only the scale. And now we will move forward to frame 60. which is about 2.5 seconds. And here we will scale the real light along the z-axis until more of the phone's edge is revealed. For that, we will select both area lights. If you now try to scale it on the z-axis, it will behave like this, which also looks great, but we don't want this effect. So press dot on your keyboard and then choose individual origins. So now, if you press S and then Z, we can now scale them on their origins. This is great. This is okay. Perfect. Then we will select one of the area lights, press key, and then again set the keyframe for the scale, and the same thing with the other area lights. So now we have animated their strength. When we play it, you can see how it reveals the edges of the phone. The edges become more visible. And now let's bring back the background back into the scene. At frame 1, the point light already has a strength of 0. So the background is completely dark. We will select the point light and we want it to be revealed, because at frame 60 the product is already visible. Change the strength of the point light, make sure the point light is selected, make sure you are on frame 60, and make sure the node is selected. And we will set the strength from 0 to 1 and press I to insert the keyframe. So when we play the animation, you can see how the background appears simultaneously with the product. We don't want the background to appear too early. It should come in only after the phone silhouette is already visible. So we will duplicate the first keyframe. So make sure the point is selected, make sure the emission node is selected, and then we will duplicate by pressing Shift D this keyframe and then dragging it to around frame 40, frame 48. I'm going to choose 42. And when we play this now, you can see how the background is appearing after the phone silhouette is already visible. Feel free to experiment here. The exact timing depends on the feeling you want. For me, 42 works right now. You can make 40, you can make 30. I don't want the background to appear too early or too late, so it depends on your feeling. Now we have reached a very important point. Everything is animated, but the motion still feels stiff. The motion is linear. It is happening, nothing fancy. And this is exactly where most animations fail. Now comes the interesting part. We are going to take these exact same keyframes and make them look significantly better. So let's switch from Shade Editor to the Graph Editor. And let's make this bigger, and this is our render view. Yeah. And now you will be able to see my changes. First, we will select our area light. Then I'm gonna let them open and then hide the Y scale, Z scale. This red curve is the keyframes we set. This is our keyframe at frame 1. And this is our keyframe at frame 60. So right now the motion of the scale is set to linear. We don't want that. So you can press A or just select them like this, and then press T and set it from linear to Bezier, which already creates this curve. Right now the animation feels mechanical. What we want instead is an S curve. So we want this to be an S curve. And for this we will select this part and scale them. Press S to scale them and pull them outward, and we will do the same for the second keyframe. And now you can see the curve forming that classic S shape, which is showing us the speed of the motion. It starts slow, gets faster, slows down to the end. And we will now apply the same changes to the area light. So just select it. Also, you can unlight the other scales, select it, scale it, select the other keyframe, scale it to create the same S curve. And now if we get to our render view and play it, you will see how the light starts slow, gets fast, and then it will end slow. Perfect. You can see how it looks more interesting. And the same thing we will do for the background light. So select the point light, the strength. We want the strength to have the same motion. You can press on normalize and then play with your Control and your middle mouse button. Then we will create the same S-curve. And when we play it, oh, not the render view. So, and if you play it now, slow and down fast. It has the same motion like the real lights. Don't forget to save your project. Now that we have animated our lights, it is time to animate our product. We will use the graph editor, so I will leave it open. First, we will set a keyframe, select the empty, go back to frame 1 and press K and then rotation. I am selecting the rotation because I'm only going to affect the rotation. We will only rotate it on his axis. But if you want to scale it or play with the location of your product, feel free to experiment. But then you should definitely check other keyframes. If you want to play with the scale, set a keyframe for scale, or if you want to play with the location and the rotation, set the keyframe for the location and the rotation. So I'm setting it only for the rotation. Then we know that the product is revealed at frame 60. So the product will stay like this till frame 60. I'm going to duplicate the keyframe and drag it to frame 60. Then the first motion I want is to happen in like 1 second from frame 60 to frame 84. I'm going to rotate on Z-axis, press R and then Z, just like this. Press K and then rotation to insert the keyframe. And now if we play, you can see the motion. Right now it is a stiff motion. Guys, I think the strength of the array lights is too low, definitely too low. So let's make it higher. Then go to render view. Right now it has a strength of 2 at frame 60. Let's make it 5, for example. 12. Yeah, it's much better. We will set the light to 12. Let's keep it running and see how it looks. Okay, right now the motion is stiff, so we will select the empty and open the object transformation, and then the orientation is happening only on the Z-axis. Normalize. Okay. It is the same thing which we did by the area lights. We will make the S-curve. Scale it. Scale this keyframe. Play the motion. That's it. Now we wanted the motion to go further, but slow. So we will extend this motion to about 1.5 seconds. So this is 1 second, 108, and so at frame 120, we should have 1.5 seconds, and we will just rotate the phone, the product on the Z-axis, just slightly a little bit further. And then press again K and then insert a keyframe for the rotation. And you can see the new keyframe already on the graph editor. I'm gonna try to match the speed. So you can see so it goes slow and then stays at the same speed. When we play it back, you can see the difference. Slow, perfect. For example, I'm gonna rotate it like this. It will slow down and then get fast. But like this, the motion which we had, that's continuous at the same speed. Now we will, this was 1 second, now we will move 1 second to frame 144, and we will rotate it again on the Z-axis only and turn it completely round. And then maybe also on the X-axis, like this. Like this. Yeah, this also looks good. And then press K for the rotation. Then we will do the same thing. We will create an S-curve. and then and then let's see how the motion looks. Nice. Also, I'm gonna just continue the motion for about, again, 1.5 seconds. This is 1 second and this is 1.5 seconds at frame 180. RZ, then make the motion continue. Press K for rotation. Play the animation. Okay, I want to adjust this movement. I don't like the way it stops here. This one. I don't like this one. So we will play with the curve, and we also need to adjust the speed. See, maybe it already changed something. It is definitely better. Now we will make another keyframe, another rotation. So we will move again 1 second, only 1 second, which is this keyframe 203. Then we will rotate the phone again on 3 and then just rotate it. To this position, key for keyframe, and then make your S-curve. See how the motion looks. And again, we want the motion to continue for about 1.5 seconds. So move your timeline to frame 240, press, and then RZ, rotate it. Continue the motion like this, press K, rotation, and then adjust your curve to have the same speed. Yeah, perfect. Now let's play the whole animation. It is good, it is perfect, but you see how fast it changed. But on this one, it was too small. It was too small, too slow. Here. I want it to be faster. Yeah, like this. Okay. Guys, I think we are finished. Let's set the frame to 140. Nice. The timing is great. It's perfect. Guys, I think that's it. Now I'm gonna set up some settings for the render. First, try to render this frame. Let's say max samples 200, and then render image. Because I want to see if a sample of 200 would be enough to get all details I want. As you can see, we have here a lot of noise. So maybe we need to crank it up. Let's try 500 and then render image. Why isn't my denoising? Is it denoising? I don't think so. Let's go to compositing. Then we will go to view layer and we need to select denoising data. New, and then press Shift A, search for denoise, and we will use the image, then the albedo data, the curve of the normals, and then we will connect denoise with the image output. So if we render it now, took 10 seconds. Let's see if we can make it less. Let's try again 200 frames, render image. And the image looks good. Come, let's make 250 or 300. And again, render image. It took 6 seconds. 6 seconds, we have 240 frames, which is an animation, I think, of 10 seconds. Yeah, let me see how long the animation will take. We have 240 frames per frame, renders in 6 seconds, and then divided by 60, we have 24 minutes. So this animation, this render will take you, if you have the same render times, 24 seconds. That's it for this animation, for this project, this tutorial. So guys, this is the final result. If this video helped you, feel free to like and follow the channel. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see next. I will be posting more tutorials. This is just the beginning. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.